If I'm honest, I did everything I could to find faults with the Kawasaki Z900 RS and RS SE. We went on a trip of nearly 2,000 kilometers from Vienna, crossing Hungary and Serbia, all the way to Montenegro and then back to Vienna. So we did motorway, we did national roads, we did those typical Hungarian or Balkan roads and some properly rough tracks. On top of that, temperatures ranged from nearly 40 degrees down to 5 degrees, with even a bit of snow when we rode back from Montenegro to Austria. In this video, I'll tell you about my experience with the bike and whether it really is as good as it seems to be. Spoiler alert, it is.
We try, keep on trying. You got it. I believe in you. You got it. I know you got this. You got it. Just keep on trying. Got it.
I'll say it from the start, this isn't just one of the best near-retro or retro bikes, not even sure where to draw the line between those two categories. It's also one of the best bikes you can buy today. I'm not going to save that bit for the end. It's a bike I absolutely loved, and I reckon it's the peak of what a 4-cylinder engine can offer, the ultimate representation of what a classic naked bike should be. Just look at how gorgeous it is, both in the standard RS version and the SE. We'll get into the differences later, but both bikes are stunning. They're not just retro-looking bikes, because anyone can do that. They're a kind of homage to the original Kawasaki Z1. In short, it's the best of the 1970s motorcycle design, packed into a modern machine with modern components. Take the metal fuel tank, for instance. No stickers, everything painted to absolute perfection. It's stunning, beautiful, without weird shapes or angles, just really organic and properly wide. You've got to see it in person to really grasp how wide it is. From where I'm standing, it's very, very, very good looking. That raised Kawa logo, the dash. Of course, it's all analog dials with a little TFT screen in the middle to give you some of the electronic info this bike offers. And it all looks great, with chrome detailing around the edges. The rest of the bodywork, fair enough, it's plastic, but it's good quality stuff. Feels solid, and again really nicely painted with great taste. Hats off to Kawasaki. Now, after the design, the most important part is the engine. A 4-cylinder 948 cubic centimeter motor with 111 horsepower. It's the smoothest, most refined engine I've ever tested. The power delivery is incredibly linear, super smooth, very predictable, but with enough torque in the low and mid-range that you don't need to worry about downshifting as you exit corners. You can just focus on twisting the throttle and listening, by the way, to one of the best 4-cylinder sounds I've ever heard from a Euro 5 compliant production bike. It's spectacular. That said, if we're being picky, this smooth, linear character might come across as a bit dull or too tame for some riders. But in my case, with a bike that has so much to offer, not once during our 2,000 kilometer journey did I get bored or feel like I needed more. Never missed a thing. Now, when you're coming out of a bend and getting back on the gas, you might expect, like most of us who ride modern bikes, to have a quick shifter at hand, even just for upshifts. But this retro-style bike doesn't have one. What it does have, though, is a gearbox that's, once again, super refined. Across all those kilometers, both on this ride and from the previous test on the SE version, I never once missed a gear or struggled to find neutral. From a mechanical perspective, this RS and the SE are just brilliant. Pure mechanical magic. I honestly can't describe it better. I wish you could feel what I felt. One thing you might criticize is the lack of the latest rider aids. There's no ride-by-wire, and the traction control isn't lean sensitive. It's the traditional setup. But on the flip side, That mechanical throttle gives you instant feedback from the rear wheel and tells you exactly what the bike's doing. It's hard to explain the difference between that and a ride-by-wire system. You just have to try it yourself. Last summer, for example, when we tested the older Super Duke against the current one, that's the kind of difference you notice. Now, for those of you who are used to riding sportier nakeds, the 216 kilogram curb weight might feel like a lot. And yeah, in tight bends, in those quick direction changes, it does carry a bit of inertia. But it never feels sluggish or like a chore. It's just that some other nakeds handle that kind of riding a bit better. They're more agile. Still, I'm telling you, this thing is a joy in tight corners. Even doing 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour in second or third gear, letting the engine climb out of the low revs and hearing that pure roar from the exhaust. It's brilliant. For any other use, city riding, motorways, faster twisties, the bike is super stable, even in the standard version. I'll talk more about that later, but honestly, I don't think most people will need the SE. The standard RS, with its adjustable inverted front fork, is more than enough. It offers great stability, is very comfy but firm enough to enjoy a spirited ride, to really open it up with confidence and have fun. That kind of confidence you only get from bikes like this. When we got to Hungary and hit their national roads, I've got to admit there were moments, with all those potholes, when I would have liked a slightly softer, more forgiving suspension setup, because the roads in that part of Europe are really rough. Same goes for Serbia and Montenegro. But then again, it's not a trail bike, it's not an adventure bike, and it doesn't pretend to be one either. So it's all good. If you're planning longer trips like we did last summer, just know that a windscreen would be a great addition to help with wind protection. But as far as the riding position, geometry and that amazing seat go, everything's spot on. That seat is super wide. Like I said, it's hard to explain just how big this bike is. It's a big, chunky bike, and the seat's a bit like a sofa, properly old school. I don't know if you've ridden any older bikes from the 80s or 90s, but they tended to be way more comfortable than today's machines. This seat, it's really soft, wide and comfy. But yeah, it could make things a little tricky if you're not that tall. I'm 1.71 m and I had no issues. Could ride it through the city, park it without any hassle. But if you're shorter than me or have shorter legs, it might be a bit more of a challenge. Still, it's a bike that's very accessible overall. It works for almost everyone. Now onto the brakes. On the RS, we've got a pair of 300mm discs up front with radial calipers as standard, and a 250mm disc at the rear. On the SE version, there's also twin 300mm front discs, but with Brembo calipers and floating rotors. On the standard RS, I'll admit maybe there's a bit of a lack of bite and feel with the front brake, but the SE totally fixes that. If you're someone who rides harder or just wants that extra performance, I'd say go for the SE. That little bit extra you pay might be worth it. So yeah, the Kawasaki isn't the fastest bike in the world, and it's not the highest performance machine for the money, but it's a bike with soul, with personality, with character. It's a sensory explosion from the moment you spot it from afar. Walk up close and take in the details, throw a leg over that beautiful metal tank. Everything just feels spot on. And when you touch it, start it up, you realize this is the very definition of a proper motorcycle. If you asked a kid to draw a motorbike, it would probably look a lot like the RS. The only downside I can really mention is that, over the years, maybe it's fallen a bit behind in terms of modern features, but I could honestly buy this bike today, keep it for 20 years, and it'd still be just as beautiful then as it is now. Kawasaki's done an incredible job. There's no other way to put it. And yeah, if for you the most important thing is bang for your buck performance, then maybe you need to look elsewhere. Maybe at that Yamaha XSR we also tested. If you want another review of that, we can do it. We even took it to the Balkan Rally. But if that's not the case, just know you're going to be one very, very, very happy rider with this one. You might say I'm just going on about how great it is, but it's true. Ask anyone. No issues, super reliable engine. It's a bike that's been properly tested. The only bad thing about it is the high price compared to today's standards. That's it. The only real problem is that I don't have one. Anyway, I think that's all for now. Thanks for sticking around. Subscribe if you like the video. Have a great day, evening, or night. See you in the next one, and feel free to drop your questions below or directly in Instagram.